to see you.
You too.
So globalization makes all it possible, so we can connect so easily. So and there are risks actually.
Yes.
I'm trying to fix my camera. Okay, hopefully it's fixed now.
That looks.
We have people joining us, and I'm so glad that you could make it.
Well, thank you for having me. This is my first ever Instagram Live. I've never watched an Instagram Live. I've never been on an Instagram Live. So I'm managed to work out what to do, and that your instructions were so clear. So thank you.
Yeah, and actually this is my first Instagram, and it's really my honor to have you as a first guest for it. So this is my new account, and I'm really glad that we will be discussing such important topics for project managers. So let's wait for the audience to join. We have quite a registered attendees. And we can start later.
That's fine.
And I see you are in your vacation mode.
Yeah. In the UK, it's school half term, so we were able now, after quite a long time in lockdown due to coronavirus, we're able now to go away and visit relatives and stay in other people's houses. As long as you abide by certain rules. So there are still some restrictions, but you're right. This is not my house. This is not where I live, not where I live normally anyway. But we were able to get away for a couple of days. So that's what we've done, which is very nice. It's nice to have the opportunity to get away while the kids are off on school holidays.
Nice opportunity. And I see that people are joining. George just sent a message. Hi, Lela and Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to see you here. Hi, George. It's so nice to see you here. And I see other folks are also joining here, and I'm glad to see you all here. So probably we will wait for one more minute for people to join us, and we will start our live and talk about the project management books.
Excellent. So tell me a bit while we're waiting about the PMI Georgia chapter, because I know that it's evening time for you, isn't it? So
it's evening time, and for the PMI Georgia chapter, we are youngest, probably one of the youngest chapters, and we are growing the community. And right now we have more than 110 PMPs, PMP holders, and we have volunteers, about 50-60 volunteers, active volunteers, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm proud that we are making progress. And the other day I was talking with my colleagues from Kazakhstan, and per person we have more PMP holders than in Kazakhstan, so it gives me a pride.
Excellent. Well, congratulations, because I know you've been working really hard to build up that sense of community and to serve the community, because we've talked on Clubhouse before, and there's a huge project management audience out there, but I think so much of it is only served in English or Spanish, because there's quite a lot happening with Latin America, isn't there? But the rest of the world, we need dedicated people like you to facilitate their communities in the native language. So I was getting ready for this, and my family asked me, did I know how to say hello in Georgian? I said no. So they shamed me before I even started, because we're having to do this in English due to my poor international skills.
I think we will have time to actually learn Georgian, but I think it's better that we switch to the topic of the today's our discussion. We have actually already some audience, and others will be joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is my pleasure to present Elizabeth Harrin for today's our live at the Instagram. Elizabeth is author of 6 books about project management, and they are very well known in the project management society. She is also author of the one of the well-known blogs about girls project management, and she was one of the winners, second place holder of the year blogger. Is it right? Am I presenting right?
Yes. The blog Girls Guide to Project Management won a few awards today, but that's
Yeah.
the blog itself has changed quite a lot over the time, but still with that focus on real life practical project management skills.
And also what I want to add about Elizabeth, she has about more than 20 years of experience in project management, and she worked in healthcare, in IT, in finance. So she has all this practical knowledge accumulated in the project management books, and I'm really eager to learn more about how she writes those books, what inspires her, and also hear more practical tools like techniques. Especially just yesterday I read your book about communicating change, and it was really inspiring for me because nowadays we have changes in companies, in organizations, in processes everywhere. So implementing change is one of the challenge for the organizations. So first of all, thank you for joining me for this live, and tell me about your books. What was the first book you wrote, and what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I've loved writing since I was small, and I've always wanted to write a book. So I promised myself that I would write one before my 30th birthday. I started to get closer and closer to 30, and I realized I didn't really have any fiction skills. I had no particular skills, and everybody says, write what you know, and the only thing I knew was project management, and actually I didn't even know that much project management at the time. So I decided to write a book called Shortcuts to Success: Project Management in the Real World, which is about different stories from different people and what you can learn from that and how you can apply those tips and tricks. So that book was really, I call it the mentor on the shelf, because when I started project management, I had a mentor, which was fantastic. And I realized that lots of people don't have that opportunity, and all the knowledge about project management is in people's heads. And if we created a book of stories and then learnings, lessons from those stories, then that would be quite a good way of sharing some of the knowledge. So that's what I did, because I didn't really have confidence in my own project management thought leadership. If you see that's such a buzzword, isn't it? At the time. So I curated these stories, and then I wrote the lessons based on what people were telling me, and that was my first book. And it came out a month after my birthday. So the writing part was done, but it wasn't published until a month after I was 30. So I feel like I hit that target.
What was the main outcome of you finding out after writing this book? So what were the key points you took from this book? What you advise the audience or who is reading?
Well, the key thing that was different about that book than a lot of the other project management books is that at the time, that it wasn't life cycle driven. So often when we read about project management, traditional waterfall projects, you talk about what to do in different points of the life cycle. So the big takeaway from that book was actually the life cycle is the life cycle. I don't need to teach you that part, but we had a section on managing budgets, managing teams, managing yourself, personal time management, productivity, how to be confident as a project manager, and managing schedules as well. So I would say the key takeaway from that book for me was to look at the different domains and how to be effective in each of them, and that is probably more effective, more use to you as in your career than knowing what the life cycle is and making sure you tick all the boxes on the different steps.
I see. And actually the next book was following. What was the next book you wrote?
That's a test. I think it was social media for project managers, which you can't get now. It
was interesting. It was so interesting to find out that there is a book about social media for project managers.
Yes. Well, I wrote a second edition of that one called Collaboration Tools for Project Managers, because the big news at the time that the social media book came out was people were using social media tools to help them engage their team and communicate about their projects. And then actually 5 years later, project management software started to much more incorporate all the features that we have in social media tools. So if you think now about Slack and Asana and Genius Project, Monday.com, they've all got discussion threads, places where you can store documents, and you're not limited to having to do a social media thread, a chat thread in a different tool, and then document storage in SharePoint or on a network drive. Everything comes together in one cohesive tool. So PMI asked me if I would, because PMI published that book, they asked me if I would update the book to make it more relevant to modern software. So I did that. And that was really interesting to see how quickly things had changed and how obsolete a book can be in just a few years.
Actually, you can even judge about the how it's all speeded up. The PMBOK usually is an published new version of the PMBOK is usually published in every 4 years, and right now the speed is so fast that it's published will be published in 2.5 3 years. So you can say how fast it all goes. So it's pretty interesting. So as I see from your books, actually you are mainly focusing on the stakeholder management. So you even wrote in one of your blogs that you're passionate about your stakeholder management, communication, and managing change. In the book that actually I read, you are not talking about how to do the change, but how to really communicate and get buy-in from the people who should be involved in this. So
that is my main interest. And someone's asked a question. Good, Smani. I can see Enya says she uses Smartsheet, but somebody has asked a question, what was the main goal when I'm choosing a topic for the book? And I think my main goal is to exactly what you just said, Lela, because it's how can we help people be better at working with people? Because it's people that deliver projects, not a process or a software. You know, Smartsheet is good, but if I'm rubbish at talking to humans, then no tool is going to replace that. So the driving factor behind my books really has been always to try to help people solve a problem when they're working with other people. So the Communicating Change book, actually I was asked to write that one specifically about change management. And that is about how do you talk about change and make it easier for people to go through that change curve and do something new. And like you say, I have 2 other books that are focused really on stakeholders and how you interact with those. And some of it is I want to share my ideas because I think my ideas are good, if that's not too big-headed to say. But some of it is my biggest problems on my projects have always been the relationships and the way of internal politics and how all that influences the project. And if there are tools I have that I can share with other people to make it easier to do that part of the project management, then that's the goal.
Amazing. Actually, in our discussion in Clubhouse, actually we discussed, and I'm a really strong believer that all projects are done by human beings. So we can invent all the tools, all the applications, but the main decision, not the small tasks, but not the routine things. Routine can be done by AI and all other applications, but the main decisions are made by the human beings. So the communication is one of those parts, actually. So so I understand your first book, but what are the inspirations for other books when you write them?
All different things, really. The customer-centric project management, for example, was inspired by something we actually did, a practical case study of what we do at work or what we did in my old job. And I co-wrote it with my boss because it was his idea, really. As an IT director, he ran the IT department in a particular way and got lots of feedback from people, and they were using his communication process for operational fixes and the day-to-day of IT. And we suddenly thought, well, why don't we use it for IT projects as well? So we started to adopt it for that, and I ran a big multi-million-pound project, used this way of collecting feedback, which is actually a very agile way of focusing on what people are interested in and then talking to them about that and delivering the acting on the lessons that we are picking up on a regular basis. So the inspiration for that book was the fact that we were doing something we thought was innovative, unusual, and really powerful, because one of the things that happened on that project is that we cancelled the go live. People had organized their holidays around our big ERP deployment. And this, I could do a whole keynote speech on this. In fact, I do. but we then asked people to cancel a different holiday because we had to delay our project by 3 months. And that was really difficult communication to get across. But because we had built such successful working relationships for the previous year, actually we had banked a lot of goodwill. People trusted us. There was a lot of credibility in the team, and we were able to navigate that change quite. It was difficult, but we managed it. And so I think the inspiration for that book was just talking about what we had done and thinking, well, why don't more people do it this way? Because it's just about putting the customer at the beginning and the end and the heart of your project and serving them.
Yeah. Actually, we have a question, Elizabeth. If someone is interested in academia research, which of the knowledge areas in project management will we advise to do more research on? Thank you for the question.
So knowledge areas in project management, there's a very specific terminology that is relating to PMI. And as I understand it, although Lela, you probably know about this more than I do, the new PMBOK guide doesn't have that much focus on knowledge areas anymore. So the whole concept of studying a particular knowledge area, I think, is pointless. For a PhD, I would very much focus on something that you're going to be interested in, because a PhD is at least 3 years worth of study. And if you pick a topic just because you think it's going to tick some kind of box, you will very quickly lose the will to live, I think. I've seen that. I haven't done a PhD, but even my master's dissertation, I needed to choose a topic I was going to be excited about. And in fact, writing a book is very similar, because I've got to write 60,000 words of cohesive, well-researched argument. And if it's not something I'm interested in fact, I was talking to another publisher about another book, and it's not really the right book for me, because I'm just not interested enough to let my personality show and be excited about writing it, which would come across in the words. So I'd say pick something that you care about, and that could be anything. I mean, project management is so broad, so whether you care about the economics of project failure or whether you care about social justice, you could do projects on anything, or both of those things, and combine them. So there's a lot of scope.
Yeah. George is asking, do you have audio versions of those books by a chance? Do you have audio?
I don't know.
Oh. So maybe the idea for the next projects for you to audio them.
I will have to check with my publishers and see. I know we have ebooks, but I don't know about audio. I think I would know if we had them. So the fact I don't know probably means we don't have them. But thank you. What a great suggestion. I'll pass that on.
Actually, I was thinking that every book that you're writing itself, of course, is a project. Do you have any routines or schedules? Now it's already 6, or maybe even you're working for the next books. What is the routine? How you organize? How you do that?
That's a great question, because I think as a project manager, I feel really equipped to deal with a big project like writing a book. And I have a spreadsheet which has the number of chapters, the word count, my status, so target completion date for every chapter, and then notes, so that I can share that with the publisher as well, so they know how I'm doing, and we can send the draft copies backwards and forwards for the editor to look at. So I do try and have a bit of structure, but the main thing I do is block out time on my calendar to do the writing. So I had a weekend away to start my new book a couple of weeks ago. I had a day last week, which was just a writing day, and then in a couple of weeks' time. So as with all things, if you want to do the work, you have to make time for the work, whether it is professional development or volunteering with your chapter or writing a book or spending time writing a communications plan for your project or doing change management. Put it on your calendar and it will get done. So I have blocked out time between now and my next submission date is the 24th of November.
Oh,
I've got certain days planned to do the writing.
So actually what I wanted to ask, I read some of your blogs, of course, when I was preparing for our live, and you talk a lot about the future trends also, what are expected, and what project management will entail for future and how it will develop. What do you think?
Oh, I love talking about this. I think there's a lot of people who are talking about AI and robotics and all that kind of stuff, which is coming. It's here already. But we'll have to do that. But I think for me, the big change that's coming for project managers is we will have to understand more about different business areas. So change management, Six Sigma and lean process re-engineering, business analysis. Because we don't always get to work with a business analyst, we would have to understand more about conflict resolution, lots of different disciplines that we've always had on the periphery. But now I think, especially with Pinbox 7, there is the expectation that the project manager can do strategic leadership and spend time filling in their software task management tracker with % complete and everything in between. So I think as the role gets bigger, the expectations on project managers grow, and what we will have to do is become generalists. So we will have to be generally aware and have very broad knowledge, and then work with specialists who can go deep, and we'll need to know who to call on for each individual area. So I'm thinking of this as kind of like magpie project management, where we collect the best things from various different fields and become very interdisciplinary about how we work. So maybe we need to do some communication, so we will draw on things from the marketing discipline. Maybe we need to do some change management, so we will call on the ProSci methodology and ADCAR and all that kind of thing. And we might not be experts or certified in all of that, but we will know that it exists and how to get that help and bring it into our project. So I think the role is broadening, but that makes it much more interesting for us, actually, that we can work with all different levels and try to fulfill that role of strategic advisor and the glue that holds the project together.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the millennial project managers? How is it to have a millennial project manager?
I've never worked on a project with a millennial project manager. If people are in and they are millennials or they have, then let us know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in intergenerational workplaces, and I think the most important thing with people is that you understand what motivates them and how they work and how they want to be treated, and you do your best to do that. And that means the project manager, we change our style on a regular basis. So I might be talking to an executive with very high level information, very big picture, and then talk to a technical person, lots of detail. They think totally differently. They don't want to be told how to do anything, so they just want to be given the task and understand the detail of the problem, and then they go away and solve it. So you have to change your style depending on who you're talking to, and I'm sure millennials would fit into that. What about you? Do you work with millennial project managers?
Yes, I do, and it's so interesting. One of the things is that I am really looking for to find the ways what motivates them. So what inspires them? Because the finance and salary is no more motivation for them. But what really motivates them is that something that they do really makes sense and makes difference. So it's really something to spend time of explaining the objectives, explaining the vision. So they are really part of the big picture and the big difference. So I'm really excited about it, and usually when I look at the things working with them, actually I see myself as a sometimes old school representative, and I see myself needing to change, to adapt. So things are not more, I like to have plans and checked every day, so have for every task like a planned time. But for millennials, they are more agile, they stay flexible, but they are mission vision driven. So this is the difference that I vision. So I'm looking for ways how to motivate them, and the motivation is one of the difficult parts for the project managers, I think. What do you think?
I agree. I think motivation is difficult, especially when you're doing lots of the same kind of work over and over. The situational leadership model by Hershey Blanchard is very good around motivation, because it makes sure that you match your leadership style with how the person wants to be led. So that could be quite interesting to look at. But I totally understand the whole vision thing and making sure people know why their job is valuable and how they fit in. And we've got a great story to tell with our projects. Even if your project is not top priority and is not costing millions of pounds, then you can still talk about why it's going to make a difference to people's lives, or why doing this is better for your customer, for the internal teams. And if people can understand that, then that might go some way to helping them connect the dots and feel valued, feel their work is valued. And also with people who like to feel that they are connected to the vision, saying thank you can be just a good motivating factor, because you appreciate their work and you recognize it. And we should do that anyway for all people that we work with, not just the millennial community. But that might be something to think about as well. And also ask them, because the people I've worked with have been motivated by hugely different things, even within the same generation. Sometimes it's job security, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's feeling valued. And it is quite interesting, because I used to work in healthcare, and talking to health practitioners, nurses, pharmacists, about why they are motivated to do their jobs in comparison to me as a project manager in healthcare. We did an exercise in a class environment, and I came out as motivated by salary, and everybody else came out as motivated by caring and helping the community. And I thought, oh dear. But that's just different profiles, isn't it? It's just different people.
Yeah. What would be communication tools that you would recommend for project managers? Because when I'm looking at the people who are attending, those are all project managers, and I know some of them. So what would be the communication tools that you would recommend these days?
I would say chat apps, instant messaging would be really good. So whether that's Slack or something else that you use, Teams, within your group, just for the day-to-day chat, because that helps build a trusted working relationship and helps you get quick answers. But that's not enough by itself. I think the communication tools that you use need to be tailored to what it is you're communicating. So I would start by saying, what's my message? Who am I trying to reach? How are they best going to receive the information? Because sometimes it might be you do a presentation, sometimes it's a one-to-one, sometimes it's an email. And what am I sending them? Because if it's just a broadcast newsletter, you can just email it. And because you don't really, it's there if they want to read it. But if you expect them to take action as a result of the communication, then you'd want to do something that's perhaps a little bit more interactive. You want to make sure they've got it. You want to make sure they understand it, and that they're actually going to take action based on it. And that might be a phone call instead. So I think there's a lot of value in brainstorming all the things that are available to you, from emails and newsletters and company magazines and the intranet and your collaboration tools and chat and videos and all that stuff, down to the humble phone call and face-to-face meetings, and then looking at what best matches the message that you're trying to give. Because otherwise you end up saying, oh, all our communication will be on our Microsoft Teams. Mm-hmm. And then you've got something that doesn't quite fit and it isn't getting the results, and you're thinking, why is this failing? And then the person you're trying to reach doesn't even have a Teams account. It's worth thinking about.
Mm-hmm. And of course, also what I noticed that it is different for the different generations, how they adopt to the different communication tools. And of course, the scale and complexity of the project will also take the part in selecting the communication tools. So yeah, what you would say about the stakeholder management? What will be the tools that you usually use for the stakeholder management, or suggest to your readers in your books?
That's interesting, because most of stakeholder engagement is talking and building trusted working relationships. I know I've said that before, but so I would say trying to find one-to-one time with them, trying to find time with them as a group. So the tool is really, how do I get past their gatekeepers and into their diary? Because today, time, I used to be able to get into the office early and see people at the coffee machine before the executives started their day. And I can't create those moments anymore with virtual work. So what I have to do is try to be really intentional about how I'm communicating with people. And it might be that you look at when people are sending emails and you message them or you ring them at that time, because that means that they're at their desk and they might well be open to taking your call. So things like looking into people's diaries and seeing when they've got a free slot, ring them then. So it's a bit stealth, but hopefully effective. So the big stakeholder engagement tools that I tend to use would be planning out, again, what do I want this person to do? And then how happy do they feel about the project? So how likely are they to take that action? And then what do I need to do to fill the gap? and then it will be a bit of a tailored plan for everybody. And there's a tool I recommend quite often actually, which is Energy Bar, the Energy Bar by Rick somebody. But if you Google Energy Bar tools, the website might even be Energy Bar tools, and it's really good because you can put in, where is my stakeholder, how does my stakeholder feel about my project now, how do I want them to feel, and then what is the gap, and it will give you some clues as to what you could do to help bridge that gap.
Excellent. Actually, especially now, you're saying that you have to arrange meeting, you go to the office and have a coffee, but nowadays it's a luxury, having a coffee and having just even small talks with somebody, because we work in a remote era. And I don't think it will go away. It will stay. There will be like a hybrid version where we work remotely, but at some portion we will work also at office, because I read the research where it says that staff usually chooses to stay at home for 3 days and work from home, and maybe 2 days optional also go to work. So what is the difference for you to manage the remote teams and how to communicate with them? I understand that the chats, but for example, onboarding of people for the new project, it's completely new challenge. I faced it myself, how I unite the team. So
yes. I think with things like onboarding, if I think through what I used to do, I would maybe have a 1 hour meeting with somebody and just talk about the project, and I'd doodle in my book and show them the project hierarchy and how it all fits together, and then I'd call up a document and talk about that. It was pretty broadly unstructured, if I'm honest. And now I think the key is to be far more intentional with how you interact with people. So make a plan about what you want to say, hit all of those points, do not waste their time, and try to connect with them on video like this, because that's pretty much your best chance of creating a good first impression and helping them build a relationship with you, so they will ask you questions later. And that's a challenge in itself. So you were talking about bringing the team together. I was working with a team from the States, and some of them were very happy to have their cameras on and talk, and the team manager and a couple of people were very chatty. Not everybody felt like that, and that can be very different online. If you have a room and you're in the room and some people are quiet, you can specifically ask them a question, or you can gauge how they're feeling, whereas online it's much harder to guess that. And they were all fine, but some of them were introverts, and they were not the loud kind of talking people. So you have to make sure that your communication fits all of those styles. But my tip for that, if you're doing videos, is to be yourself on the camera, but a little bit bigger version of yourself. Because in fact, this is a tip from Jan Keck, who does a lot of tools and training on virtual facilitation. He says, if you want someone to give you a thumbs up, you give a thumbs up, but you give it bigger, if I get it in the camera. So they would then maybe do a small thumbs up, because people are slightly more reserved. But if you can do it bigger, you set the expectation, and then they can just, yeah, all right, whatever, join in. So you have to think about how you are and how your behavior influences others.
Yeah, you mentioned that you have to build trust in your team. So when you work like in one office area, you go for lunch or you have a coffee. So bit by bit, you build this trust. But working remotely, building this trust, it's even harder, because you are getting used to each other. You are going through this storming stage, and you may don't even understand your chat writing. So it's I look at it as an art. It's not really something that you can write. But what I really loved about your books, and why I really selected your books, is that they are so practical and empirical. They are practice driven. They are not the theory that it gives you, it was this, then this. It's more of a case study base. So you take those case studies, I understand, for first book, but all other books also are based on your experience or others, how you collect all this information.
Well, the customer centric one was my case study. and the other ones have been drawn on the wisdom of the crowd. So a lot of it comes from me and my experience and things like that. But for the book that I'm writing at the moment, for example, I can see Robert's joined. I'm hoping that I can include some quotes from him, for example. And there's a couple of other people in our community, so in our Facebook group or in our in Project Management Rebels, which is our membership community, that I've been reaching out to say, I know you've got fascinating stories to share about this challenge. How can I help raise your profile? Would you like to be in my book? So people are generally really happy to share their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Actually, George asked the question, Lela, Elizabeth, what would be the most important 3 advices from your side for the newbie PMs?
Oh, things for new project managers to work on. I would say, know what your boundaries are. So what decisions you can take and what your scope of authority is, because it's probably bigger than you expect. And then be brave. So take those choices. Don't second guess yourself. If you know it's the right project management approach to do, send the email, do the thing, call the person. For example, there was someone I was talking to the other day and she was saying, oh, I don't know how to move this thing on. I don't know how I can get that information. And I said, well, have you run them? Oh, I can't do that. They're a senior manager. No, you're the project manager. You need the information. Just ring them. They're only human. And so, you know, so be brave. So, and know your boundaries, be brave. And I would also say, what else? Communicate more than you have to, more than you think you have to, because people often need to hear the same thing 3 or 4 times, maybe in different ways.
Excellent, amazing, great, all those great advices. From my side, probably will be never hesitate to ask questions.
Oh yes, definitely.
This will be one of that I experienced myself, because I was a little hesitant to ask questions, how it will be visioned and so on. But the most important part for the newbie PMs will be ask questions, customers, sponsors, all the stakeholders. It's never enough, because priorities change, scope changes, and environmental is changing. So the customer's vision of the product is also changing. So never ever hesitate to ask questions. This is probably the rightest part. So asking questions. The second part will be never fall in love with your project. So I always and which is like kind of surprising, always remember that you do the projects for your customer. So there is a specific result that should be achieved, and the product, project, or service is done for the customer specifically, and it should serve the customer. So this is the second. And the third one is be in service to your project team. These are the people who are really making all the things happen around you. So these are things, these are people who will be supporting, who will be advising, consulting, assisting, and doing everything for the project. So be proud of your team and work with them as close as possible. So this will be the third advice. Well, from my side. Thank you for question, George. Thank you. Actually, we have 5 more minutes to go. We planned initially to have this meeting for 45 minutes, and I would like to encourage all the participants, if you have questions, this is the right time to ask Elizabeth the questions about the books, or any techniques, or anything about project management, I guess. Anything about project management. So what is the average time it takes you to write a book?
6 months, 6 to 8 months for the writing. And then, because most of my books are traditionally published, then the publisher will take over and do the typesetting, cover design, index, all that other kind of stuff. And that bit can easily take another 6 months. So it can be quite a long journey from coming up with the original idea to signing a contract, to then doing the writing, and then getting the finished book at the end of it. It's a bit of a mammoth effect.
And how it is, do you receive feedback from your colleagues? Do you give them first to review it, give you a feedback, and do you like collaborate, do some collaboration review of those draft versions?
Yes, I'll often send it to a couple of trusted colleagues for a second opinion. It goes to an editor, so they'll give me feedback as well for the next draft. And then often with books, you have somebody else write the foreword. So I would send the manuscript to somebody who would put the foreword together. And then for marketing purposes, publishers like to have blurbs on the back that go, oh, this book was amazing, or I really loved it, and all that kind of stuff. So I will send out the manuscript to you know, influencers in the community or other authors or people like yourself, PMI chapter leaders, so that they can provide some social proof that it is actually worth reading.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand. And actually support from PMI and PMI community is pretty big, because this is where all the professional like thought leaders and project managers communicate. So it's amazing experience to communicate with them. What is your, probably you mentioned that you are working on the next the book, and you already have a timetable, so it will be coming sometime end of the November, you mentioned. Yeah,
I can't say a lot about it at the moment, but I will be finishing the writing in November, and we'll hope to get that published in spring of 2022.
mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. So more books are coming.
Yes, follow me on Instagram, or you can, no doubt I'll be sharing about it on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So in all of the normal places, you'll be able to find out more when I can share some things.
And I take a chance to review your first book, and you will tell more about your new book when it's first published. Okay. I guess that's it from our side. If there are any, what books do you recommend for someone who is just starting project management?
Well, my book called Project Manager is obviously very good, but the one I liked that I've read recently that is very good is Brett Harned's book called Project Management for Humans. And that's down to earth. He is a digital project manager, so he works a lot with agile and web design projects and things. So if that is your kind of field, then Project Management for Humans will be a good read. And honestly, Project Management for Dummies is not that bad. I mean, I know people are a bit funny sometimes about the Dummies books, but I quite enjoyed it. I've got copies of. I've got Agile Project Management for Dummies on my shelf as well. So I think there's Scott Birken's book, Making Things Happen. That's also another good book. It's quite old now, but I'm still on his mailing list after all these years. I spoke with him on stage. Well, he was at the same conference as me. We weren't doing a talk together, and had the opportunity to meet him. So if you can find somebody that you like, and you can check out their blogs and see what books they've written, and you'll connect more with their style and their writing, and then you will get more out of the book.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It was a pleasure. It was a really pleasure to talk with you and hear how you write those books, how they come, how the ideas and what's the inspiration. So I loved talking with you, and now I let you to enjoy your vacation, and hope that we will have a discussion when your new book is published, and hear more about from the author.
That would be brilliant. Well, it's been lovely having the opportunity to talk with you and connect with your audience on Instagram. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for attending, and follow us on Instagram and on LinkedIn for more about project management.
Bye.
Bye.